Hello and namaste, my beautiful friends. I'm Jill Loftus of Nuit Astrology. Welcome to your planetary energy forecast for the week of May the 5th, 2025. This, I would say, is probably one of the most easeful weeks that we will have coming up here over the next couple months. Now, why? Well, part of it is this beautiful connection between the planet Uranus in Taurus and the nodes of the moon. Now, you'll recall that the nodes of the moon, they transit backwards and they move in cycles that resonate with about a 19-year cycle. But this magical Uranian connection can make things come together or fall apart in just a moment's time. Uranus is the planet of breakthroughs. It helps us to move into higher realms of communication and understanding. It helps to show us where we're being limited, where we're being held back, where we're not embracing our uniqueness or our special gifts and talents. It is going to be all week and into next, connecting beautifully with a trine, which is probably the most harmonious flow of energy, to the South Node in Virgo, right? They're both in earth signs, right? Taurus and Virgo. So really finding a lovely flow there. And it's also going to send a lovely connection in the form of a sextile to the North Node in Pisces. Now, this week is interesting in that there are multiple fun little sextiles, little blips of goodness throughout the week. And so I want you to keep your eyes peeled for those opportunities. But this one, this Uranian energy, it really is giving you a chance to have something come together or fall apart in a way that is magical for you, that is beyond your wildest dreams, beyond your expectations. Now, it's interesting. I'm working on a manifestation, a series of videos for my membership. And this month, I'm working on manifestations of relationships. And so I was thinking about manifestation. And, you know, manifestation is not making a grocery list of what you want. And I included a quote from Edgar Cayce, one of the Edgar Cayce readings, where he says, "All prayers are answered, but don't tell God how to answer it." So often people think then, oh, well, I can't have a desire or I can't set a certain intention to manifest something in a certain way. And that's not true. But think of it more in the sense of the feeling state of it, of what in a feeling state, emotional state, are you trying to create? For example, let's say, you know, you're hungry. And you can be like, oh, well, I only want this, 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 and this, instead of just being open to having a really wonderful, nourishing, good meal that satisfies you and that gives you what you need, right? And so then, you know, if you approach the wanderer through the town square looking for a restaurant with that attitude, instead of being like, well, I want this specific dish, then you're open to possibilities that maybe you hadn't even thought of, you hadn't even entertained. So think about that as your metaphor of the week. It's very Tauran, isn't it? As you move through the week, it's like, oh, well, what have I been kind of wanting or craving as far as job, as far as where I want to live, the supportive environment, the world that I live in? What do I want it to feel like? What do I want it to look like? Can I be open to that? So be in connection with that throughout the week. I'm also watching Venus in Aries getting away from Neptune. She's hopped on her Aries horse, and she is headed off with her sword raised, ready to pursue something. And she doesn't have to deal with Neptune now. She's not as confused as she was. Now, she doesn't get out of her retrograde shadow until the 16th, but still, she has a little bit more freedom this week. And so you may begin to feel that desire nature really shaking things up a little bit. I'm also paying attention to the fact that Saturn is going to also be moving into a harmonious sextile with Uranus. A lot of these outer planet connections are actually quite beneficial over these next literal couple years. This is ushering us into the future. There are going to be parts of it that we're afraid of, or parts that we don't totally understand, but they are moving the collective towards the future with a certain degree of harmony, even though change is hard. So think about it that way. All right, well, let's hop into the week. We start out with Mercury in Aries on the 5th, sending a sextile to Jupiter in Gemini. Now, Mercury loves the sign of Gemini. Maybe there's a little rash in the sign of Aries, but Jupiter's there offering some options, offering maybe a little more inspiration, a little bit more optimism. So that's very lovely. We're also going to keep an eye on the Monday because the moon is void from 9:03 a.m. until 3:40 p.m. We have 2 significant moon voids this week to watch out for. I'll tell you both. But if you're wondering what it is for your time zone, hop on the website and I've got the moon void calendar there for you. On the 6th, Venus will connect beautifully with Pluto. So this is from Venus in Aries to Pluto in Aquarius. So Venus, very passionate, right? Aquarius energy, very detached, but yet there's something here about what's being next leveled, what the evolution is. Pluto just started moving backwards, right? So this connection it's going to linger for a little bit. So really look for positive expressions of power dynamics, positive expressions of how you can move forward with something you deeply love or you deeply value that's going to carry you forward into the future. I'm also going to keep an eye on, at this point, Mercury comes in contact with Chiron in Aries. And so that Chironic urge to talk about what has hurt, to actively pursue things that make you feel more independent, more empowered. These are positive conversations that you may find the need to really express yourself this week. So make sure if you don't have a healthy outlet for that, that you're writing in your journal or maybe, booking an appointment to talk to somebody or calling up a friend. The next thing to watch for is that starting on the 9th, Chiron will move into a sextile with Jupiter for about 2 weeks. So this is another beautiful connection for Chiron, where Chiron is getting to express that part of ourselves that doesn't feel accepted, that feels broken, that feels like the outsider, that feels misunderstood. There are new philosophies, new ideas, conversations that could change the way you feel about things in just a moment. So be open to those opportunities and see them as they are, as when something happens and it pricks the wounded part of you, instead of retreating and hiding, be brave, be Aries, step forward so that you can heal. I'm also watching on the 10th, Mercury going into the sign of Taurus. Now it's at 8:15 a.m. Eastern, adjust for your time zone. But I'm feeling that Mercury getting out of fiery Aries, especially because Venus is also there, I think Mercury getting into Taurus and slowing down just a little bit sounds rather nice at this point. Now, this is another day that has a huge long moon void. It starts at 2:17 a.m. Eastern on the 10th until 3:58 p.m. Eastern. Remember to indulge in creative pursuits, allow yourself to dream, meditate, connect, enjoy nature. These are all wonderful moon void activities. You can still do the things you need to do, but do not make major commitments or sign contracts at this time. And then we finish up the week on the 11th. We have Mother's Day in the United States. I will say it features a little bit of a tense Scorpio moon. So if you would like to honor your mom, or as a mom like to be honored, this is not the best day, in my opinion. I don't really dig it. It's right as we're moving towards this full moon in Scorpio, which is going to happen on Monday, and I'm just not really liking the aspects here. Mercury is also starting to get into a little dust up with Pluto here, getting into a little square. So, tell the people you love, if you're a mom, you just want to spend the day with reading a book and sipping some tea, or maybe get outside, but don't have super high expectations for a touchy-feely, cozy little Mother's Day. It's just not that vibe. So pick another day. All right. So on track here to look at the light and the dark for the week, which I've been struggling to have enough time every week to do these videos, so I appreciate your patience with me. I would say the light for the week is the Uranus connection with the nodes. Magical. Mercury sextile to Jupiter. also really abundant ideas coming in. And of course, Venus, Pluto. Even though Pluto is always a little sketchy. It was interesting. We were just in a museum the other week and looking at all the art related to Persephone and Hades and Lucifer and Demeter, and thinking about the mythology of Pluto and the underworld. But there is still that shadow. That shadow has a lot of potential. That shadow has a lot of purpose. Things do have to break down for new things to be born. That is how it works here. And so we need to understand what's coming in the future so that we can adjust and adapt, or as Kriyananda used to say, adjust, adapt, and acclimatize. So I'm liking that. Now, as far as the shadow for the week, I actually had to kind of look for some shadow for this week, because this week is pretty nice astrology as it goes, friends. Next week, yeah, caution flag up. This week, I'm going to keep an eye on, the moon void, the significant moon voids, because sometimes, I don't know, sometimes people don't understand how to work with them properly. It can feel a little confusing. It can feel like you've stepped off the wheel and there's like time is very flexible and just feels like very uncertain or kind of untethered. Some people really enjoy that feeling and some people don't. So the moon voids, watch out for that. I'm not really liking the Scorpio moon. Gotta say that we're building up to in those Mother's Day vibes. So I would just say, and also I'm still got my eye on the Neptune and Aries situation here. I would love for you to drop some comments below and tell me how you are experiencing Neptune in Aries. For me, I feel like there's a lot more, like, I don't know if it's exactly anger, but just there's, you get this kind of feeling of like lava percolating underneath the surface of the volcano, if you know what I mean. I'm getting those kinds of feelings of that. And it will be interesting to see what happens when Saturn sweeps in there on May 24th and kind of amplifies that feeling. But I'd be interested to see what your experience has been so far. Stay tuned for the Celtic Cross. I did do a Celtic Cross on the Uranus contact with the nodes and how to work with that. Also, if you enjoyed the Isis Lotus Tarot spread that I used to do with these videos, I have posted that separately and it's very interesting. In fact, I've recorded a couple weeks in a row and there's definitely a story. So the ease of this week will escort us into the complications of next week, which still we're going to begin to move forward. And I think for a lot of us, that's just going to feel good to move forward. All right, so I hope you found this useful and helpful. If you did, please comment below. Please share it with a friend. Please do hop on the website, sign up for my newsletter. I think they're very helpful. And please join me on Nadia Shah's channel, Synchronicity University. She's got this wonderful school for astrology, and I'll be teaching on May the 27th on astrology and karma, so I would love to see you there. All right, stick around for the Celtic Cross. Thank you for your patience. Hello, my friends. Namaste. Let's check out a Celtic Cross reading for this week. Let's take a look at that contact between Uranus and the nodes. Now, remember, Uranus is finishing up its time through the sign of Taurus. It's in fact going to move into Gemini in the summer and then, of course, slip back. But during this time period, it's going to powerfully connect with the nodes of the moon, or as they're sometimes called, the nodes of fate. Now, it's going to have its most powerful configuration to the South Node in Virgo. So the symbol of discernment and wisdom and healing and service. It's going to have just a little luck flow over to the North Node in Pisces. Now, it's also configured nicely to Saturn during this time too. So there's some magic afoot here. So let's take a look at the Celtic Cross to see how we're going to take advantage of this energy. And it's in play all week. So we're going to start out and say you are the Queen of Pentacles. So we're trying to figure out, right? Things are strange. There's a lot of economic stuff going on. We're trying to figure out how to make sure our families are fed, that we're doing the right thing with our bank accounts and our investments, right? Practical material things are on our minds, and so this is the Queen of Pentacles. What's crossing us is the moon. Now, I find this fascinating. I am kind of filming these all together just because my life is a little compressed right now. But you will be watching them over the period of a couple weeks. But no kidding, we got the Queen of Pentacles in the Isis Lotus Tarot spread. We've been getting the moon every week as well. So there's more than meets the eye here. So don't try to rationalize with the mind. Make sure that you're intuiting. You got a sense about something. You've got a feeling about something. Follow through on that. Now, in the past, Page of Wands. There's been something here. It could be that you've been trying to start something, maybe with the nodal shift that happened earlier this year. Maybe that Uranus and Taurus, now it's been there for like 6 years. Maybe there was something here that you really wanted to start in the Taurus area of life. Hard to say. Future card is the Hanging Man. So this just says nothing's going to come together immediately. All right. So there's going to need to be patience. There needs to be an understanding that things might seem a little uncomfortable at the time, but you have to think about the long-term good. Now, the mind is looking for 9 of Cups abundance. You are trying to focus on things that make you happy. Just make sure they're long-term goals. And your subconscious says 3 of Wands. I already set these pieces of energy in motion. Like some of these things that we are looking for, these synchronistic happenings, are actually from seeds we planted long ago. Advice, another card that we got in some of our spreads last week, or this week in the Isis Lotus, we've got the 5 of Swords. So be careful that you're not so focused on one thing. I don't know why. This is totally making me think. This is back in the pandemic. My husband sending me a picture of this woman who had her shopping cart overloaded with toilet paper. All right, that's the most 5 of Swords thing in the world. Like, yeah, it's great that you're going to have toilet paper, but don't you need other things? So think about the bigger picture here. The outside influence of the week is the Ace of Wands. Wow, there's a lot of new start energy occurring. And of course, because we're getting the retrograde planets, Mercury, Mars, and Venus all getting out of shadow and moving forward, that's going to make things leap forward. Interesting. What you want to happen, 5 of Pentacles. There's something here about you feeling excluded. And there's something that you're really resonating with it. So you've got to watch that. Look for your community. Look for your people. Don't feel like you don't belong. Don't reinforce your own negative stories or stereotypes. Watch the mind here. Outcome. Got 2 cards, 3 of Cups, so very positive, exciting. Happy. Well, I've got 3 cards, interesting. The Star, which is about healing. And we have the 2 of Swords, interesting. So I would say that part of the outcome of this week with the Uranian energy is that there will be things that seem very positive. There are going to be things that come together, but there's also going to be a sense that there's, again, more to things than meet the eye. I think this moon here is one of the most important cards because you must be tapped into your intuition this week. Now, the Reader's Fan, Knight of Swords, also remain logical. The Lovers, ooh, something good. 10 of Swords, also something maybe not exactly going according to plan, but Judgment. Understand the decisions that you're making now have larger repercussions. So I would definitely say for this Uranian energy, it's not like something changes course in a moment, even though that's usually how Uranus functions. What we have to watch is that if something goes awry or suddenly happens, that we might be too narrow in our focus of what we consider to be victory or a win. We've got to watch our own attitudinal karma in this situation as well. We need to feel into our own personal inner work, feel into moments where things come together, and try not to ignore our inner prompts. All right, this is a time to really pay attention to the inner wise person. So I hope you have a marvelous week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.